Hi everyone, this is Adrian.
And I'm Carrie.
And for this episode of the Scent Library, we are gonna talk about the Givenchy Experience. What it's like to have perfume from Givenchy.
Okay, so Givenchy has quite a lineup of fragrances, but they're not necessarily one of the first go-to ones that most people think of. You know, Armani, Dior, all of those kind of come first. But Givenchy has quite a respectable lineup. They're probably not as maybe like youth leading and front of the line type fragrances, but for people that like kind of classic fragrances and opulent fragrances, they have quite a lineup. And they do have a fairly stunning history, along the line of some real successful fragrances that people have really enjoyed. And when you talk about them, that people will know.
Yeah, so they're more of like a niche company.
No, they're definitely designer, but they have a little bit lesser known. They're maybe not as mainstream as what the word I was trying to seek for.
Oh, okay. So let's start off with this fragrance called Givenchy Gentleman 1974.
Okay, so way back in the 70s, this one came out, Givenchy Gentleman, released in 1974. This one is still the original old school formulation of it. And when you smell it, it definitely has a kind of an older, like a barbershop sort of a vibe to it.
It smells very grassy, wood and grass.
Yeah, so it has notes of like amber, bergamot, cedar, cinnamon, civet, which definitely gives it sort of an old school smell, jasmine, leather, musk, oak moss, patchouli.
Okay.
And it's a nice one. It definitely leans a little bit more old school. I don't think most younger people will gravitate towards this one, but people who have been in the fragrance community and have developed certain tastes and stuff definitely would find this one a kind of a nice addition to their lineup. And it actually is a predecessor of another Givenchy Gentleman, which will come next in the series, although way later in the timeline. This one is Givenchy Gentleman, but it was released in 2017. It really doesn't have a whole lot to do with the original one as far as the exact note lineup and stuff.
Yeah, it's very different.
Yeah.
It smells more updated.
It's a much more modern, yet I would still kind of think of it as a sort of a mature barbershop type of a scent.
Okay.
It has notes of lavender, leather, patchouli, pear, pineapple, cardamom, geranium, and iris.
Yes, fruitier.
Yeah. And they started adding iris into the notes of the Gentleman line probably around with this one when they came out with the new Gentleman in 2017. Okay, so next one is actually a real throwback. This one is the original Xeryus that was released back in 1986. And this is the old style bottle.
Oh, wow.
I don't have one of the newer style bottles, but they look like the two that we just looked at. So if you got a bottle of Xeryus now, it would look like this and just say Xeryus on it.
Oh, okay.
But this one, despite having a laundry list of notes, I mean, probably close to 30 something different notes. I can't smell all of those different things in it, but when there's that many things, they sort of blend and support each other and sort of form an accord. But this one has definitely a fame from the 80s. This one, a lot of younger guys were rocking this one, even more, in their guys in their 30s and stuff like that, or 40s. It was a scent that a lot of people gravitated to, and I don't know why they changed the bottle, because I think it looks pretty cool, but I guess they wanted to go to the sleek modern bottles, and probably these cost too much to produce. This one has a ton of notes. I'll just list off a few of them. Amber, bergamot, carnation, cedar, coriander, incense, jasmine, lavender, leather, lily of the valley, mandarin, musk, oak moss, rose, and sandalwood, just to get into a few of the notes.
That's not few, that's several.
And that's really only about a third of them, maybe.
Wow.
But yeah, this one took the 80s by storm, and I remember wearing this one when it first came out, and friends of mine who wore it that I thought it smelled so good that I went out and bought bottles of it. This is a vintage bottle of it, and the formulation still smells pretty good. It definitely has a kind of an 80s vibe to it, but it's a nice scent. And the new version of it, while they've definitely changed the formulation, and a lot of people say, oh, it's not as strong or whatever, I find that the new version of it lasts longer, but it doesn't come on as strong at first. This one comes on stronger at first, but it really doesn't last all that long unless you hose yourself down with it. So there you go with those.
All right.
Okay.
So next one.
Now, okay, we're back in the 90s.
Okay.
And this was sort of an edgy scent that came out back in the 90s.
And really strong.
Yeah.
You know, I spray this on me and it lasts a long while.
This one's hard to get now. You can still find it here and there at various discounters and stuff. And if you can find a bottle of it or several, pick them up because you probably will like it. And if you don't, you can sell it on eBay.
It's called Insense.
Yeah. So this is the Insense 1993, and this one has bergamot, basil, black currant. That's a really nice note.
Yes.
Aldehydes, iris, lavender, lemon, magnolia, and mandarin.
Yeah.
So very much heading into kind of some of the fruitier, incensier sorts of vibes and stuff that we're going to come later in the Givenchy lineup. And like I said, if you can find this one here and there, pick it up because it seems to be either discontinued or at least very hard to find, and it's a really nice one to have for some special occasions. It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
And because one is never enough.
It's the Ultramarine edition.
Yeah, the bottles look the same because they are. This is the Ultramarine edition. This one also has black currant. It has iris and watermelon,
which gives it like a sea note smell. Like it smells like it's
smells
from the
sort
ocean.
of oceany. And then it has like magnolia, bergamot, carnation, mint, cedar, tobacco, and vetiver.
I don't smell the mint so much, but the tobacco, yes.
Yeah, this one's another nice one that if you find it, grab whatever bottles you can find of it because once again, I think it may be discontinued or if not, it only comes out in occasional batches and it's not usually real expensive, but it's a little hard to find. So it's nice if you can find a couple bottles, pick them up. If you don't like it, you can always sell it to other enthusiasts through eBay.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to go back to the Xeryus line. As Xeryus sales probably started to level off, the flanker ideas kicked in and they came out with Xeryus Rouge. Right.
Yes, and it has nothing in common with Xeryus.
No, it really doesn't. It has a fairly small lineup of notes and kind of interesting stuff. African geranium, cactus, cedar, Chinese orange, not just regular orange, I guess, musk, pimiento, sandalwood, and tarragon. So a lot of aromatic, sort of exotic fruits, a little bit
spicy.
Yeah, a little bit animalistic with the musk, or sort of fuzzy, and then the cactus is just a strange note. I don't really notice it in there.
I don't even know what cactus smells like. You know, does it smell like more like aloe vera?
That's kind of what I would think.
Okay.
I don't really notice it in there. Now, this one, interestingly, this bottle is the more modern bottle of the Xeryus Rouge. The original Xeryus Rouge came in a bottle like this, but red.
Oh.
So, for people that really like vintage stuff, you can find some vintage bottles of Xeryus Rouge at better prices than you can Xeryus on eBay and stuff if you just want to have neat looking bottles in your collection.
Okay, so
all right.
Next
up is what I think may be one of their coolest bottles that they've ever done.
Yeah, it's totally cool.
And this one is not quite the classic bottle of it where it has like the pi symbol written on the front, but this is called pi, like the Greek letter pi.
Yes.
And they may have done that because it has a sort of an apple spicy sort of a smell
It's
to
more like
it.
vanilla.
Vanilla.
Yeah, very vanilla smell.
And, you know, maybe making people think of gourmand like pie, but I imagine there's probably some story to it, I don't know, where they came up with the pie symbol. But it has notes of almond, anise, basil, benzoin, cedar, geranium, mandarin, neroli, rosemary, tarragon, tonka, and vanilla. So 2 very vanilla notes.
Yeah, tonka bean, benzoin, vanilla, they all kind of work like very well together.
This one I think is a great one for like fall and winter. When it starts getting into warmer times of year, not so much, because it is sort of a sweet, spicy gourmand. And I think it gets a little bit much during hot weather situations, but it's beautiful in the wintertime.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, this one is also one that is not technically discontinued, but you might want to go ahead and pick up a bottle of it if you're at all interested in it, because it's getting harder and harder to find, especially in the classic bottles.
Yeah. Okay, so next up,
All right.
we have Xeryus.
Xeryus again,
Yes.
but very different bottle. This is from one of their lines called the Mythique or Mythic bottles. And this one is a take on Xeryus, but it's a much more simplified note profile, at least the notes that they actually claim that
It's still plenty.
Yeah, I think that it's a really clean, beautiful sort of a scent, and I like it a lot. They just list the notes for amber, basil, clary sage, and woody notes.
Oh, okay.
So it's definitely a fresher, more modern take on the original Xeryus. So if you look for Xeryus, you may see it in this bottle, or you may see it in a bottle that looks something more like one of these bottles. And if you want the more classic smell, then go with the older style, the other bottle I just put away. If you want kind of a fresher, more kind of a cleaner, modern vibe of the scent, go with this one. They're both good scents.
Okay.
All right, and this one is technically marketed as a woman's scent.
Oh, but I love it because of the tuberose. It's so good.
The tuberose might be the thing I think that kicks it more a little bit towards feminine than masculine, but I don't necessarily read it that way.
Tuberose doesn't have a sex organ.
When I smelled it originally, I didn't know if it was a men's or women's scent, and I really liked it, and I got it, and then I kind of read some of the history on it. La Interdit originally, I guess, was a custom scent that Givenchy did for, I think it was Grace Kelly.
Oh. Some
maybe
actress,
Natalie Wood, I think.
Some actress from the old days.
Yeah, and so it was sort of her scent for a little while, but after a year or so, then they marketed it more in general. And then L'Interdit Rouge, which is this one, is a fairly recent release. I think it was 2021 that it came out. And this one follows some of the DNA of the L'Interdit line, but definitely takes a little bit more of a red take on things. It has blood orange, ginger, and then jasmine, patchouli, pimento leaf, sandalwood, tuberose, and vetiver.
Yes.
What do you think of this one? I think this is one that you like.
Oh, right? Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites from the Givenchy, or even like of all like fragrances, because the tuberose smells so good, and I can't believe that it's marketed just for women. I'm like, I'm wearing it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think fragrances these days are getting a little bit more just fragrance. You know, it's hard to say there's some things that definitely you smell and it smells, that's pretty masculine or that's pretty feminine and stuff, but there's a lot of things that are more in between, and I think they're perfectly unisex, and this one probably is, I would call it more unisex than I would say definitely feminine. Yes. The original line, I think, was a lot more sort of feminine smelling. This one, not so much.
Okay,
last and certainly not least, this one has taken the fragrance world by storm. This is the 2022 Givenchy Gentleman Reserve Privee. Now, do you see that on there anywhere? No. Is it under here? Yeah, it does. under there's some words that say is Reserve Privee. On the front, you'll just see Gentleman Givenchy.
Yeah. But it smells really boozy.
This one is one of my favorites. This one definitely, to me, smells boozy. It smells like irisy. This one reminds a lot of people, and it reminds me definitely of Dior Homme Parfum, which is known for its heavy, powdery iris sort of notes. Some people call it like a makeup-y or lipsticky sort of a smell. So if you're into something like that, and if you're like most people that you can't find or you couldn't possibly bring yourself to pay the $300 to $400 eBay prices on a bottle of Dior Homme Parfum these days, get this one. It's a pretty good substitute for it. They're not exactly the same, but they've got the same sort of vibe, the same sort of an irisy, powdery smell to it, but has kind of the added notes of like the booze and stuff. Amber, bergamot, chestnut, iris, whiskey, and woody notes. And you just can't go wrong. This one is great. This one, during the time when it came out for the first year, you couldn't even hardly get it from the Givenchy website. It sold out so quickly everywhere. I finally got a couple bottles of it, so I think I'm set for a while. But if you get this one, and I can almost guarantee you, go ahead and get the larger size bottle of it, because if you get the small bottle of it, you're just going to have paid almost twice as much per mil, and you're going to go through it in a winter.
Yeah.
It's definitely a really great one.
Great.
So that kind of ends our lineup of the Givenchys for today.
Yeah, and I really like Givenchy, and I wish they were more mainstream and well-known, because the fragrances are really good.
Yeah, well, maybe that leaves more for the people that know about them.
Okay. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll have more coming soon.
Yeah, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section. We'll try to get to them as soon as we can. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.